Hello, my name is Sarah Baines and I'm a planner with the Regional District of East Kootenay. Thank you for watching this overview presentation on the accessory dwelling unit planning process that the RDK has initiated. Just a heads up that sometimes accessory dwelling units is shortened to ADUs or small homes in this presentation, just to let you know that all of those terms mean the same thing. Through this presentation, we are sharing background information on the project as well as the project goals, scope, and timeline. The purpose really is to kickstart a conversation with residents and property owners from across the region so that we can hear your ideas, concerns, and questions about these ADUs. The feedback that you share with us will help determine whether or not and how existing zoning and land use bylaws should change to allow additional homes on private property within the RDEK. The background information on what led the RDEK to initiate this project goes back to 2023. Back then, the provincial government passed a new law called the Housing Statutes Residential Development Amendment Act in response to the housing crisis being experienced across BC. This new law required local governments, including municipalities and regional districts, to amend their bylaws in ways that would allow more housing to be built faster. The RDEK complied with the new provincial law in 2024 by amending 8 zoning bylaws. Two of the key amendments that occurred in 2024 included to allow secondary suites in the main home or above a detached garage on all residential zone properties across the regional district. And number 2, the size of secondary suites was increased from 40% to 49% of the habitable floor space of the main home. Also in 2024, the RDEK Board of Directors authorized a planning process to explore whether additional bylaw amendments should be made to allow more housing on private property, which is this process that we're talking about today. The director's intention with this authorization was to create an opportunity for robust consultation with residents and property owners before making any further decisions. Because they really felt that it was very important to hear from residents because they knew that this was going to be an important topic for many people for many different reasons. And so when they set this planning process, they identified 6 key goals. The first 2 we already talked about. So the first one is that the RDK needs to remain in compliance with provincial legislation. And also they wanted to ensure that residents and property owners from across the region were heard through a very robust consultation process that was separate from those amendments that were made in 2024. In addition, they also wanted to create a process that would provide the time needed to do a detailed analysis of existing zoning and land use bylaws to really understand what could be changed and maybe inconsistencies between existing zoning and land use bylaws. The fourth goal was to take into account the 2024 interim housing needs assessment reports that were done. And there's an attachment that summarizes those results of those assessments on the RDEK website. Please reach out to me if you'd like to get a copy of that. Number 5 was to take the time to really understand and accommodate the provincial policy manual and site standards that the provincial government released. And so this manual, what it does is it really sets out the provincial government's vision for how their new legislation should be implemented on the ground. And number 6, the Board of Directors really wanted to understand how the changes made to the Agricultural Land Commission Act and the Agricultural Land Reserve Use Regulation, how those changes made in 2019 would apply or impact this process. And so you can kind of get a sense from those goals that the scope of this project is very, very broad. And so in keeping with that, the starting definition for accessory dwelling unit is very broad. And so right now it's being defined as any independent, self-contained living space in addition to the principal home or structure on a single property. And as shown by the diagram on the right-hand side, accessory dwelling units right now could be inside the main home on any floor. So whether that's the basement, the main floors, upper floors, sort of like a secondary suite. They could be, ADUs could be attached to the main home, or they could be fully detached from any other building on the property. So sort of standalone backyard small homes. So as part of this process, we are asking owners to help us with this definition. Specifically, we want to hear from you whether this definition should stay the same, should it include other types of accessory dwelling units that we haven't mentioned here, or exclude some of these types of accessory dwelling units that we've listed. We also want to know whether accessory dwelling units should be allowed on properties with duplexes and or multiple family dwellings. So again, very broad definition, and we need your help to refine this scope. So this slide is just meant to show or to reinforce that the scope of this project includes all 6 electoral areas across the regional district of East Kootenay. And so we've scheduled 2 open houses per electoral area to help us make sure we hear from everybody across the region. Again, because this scope of this project is so broad, we are also asking residents and property owners for feedback on whether changes should be made to a range of regulations within the zoning bylaws. Each of these yellow boxes represents a different set of questions. And so first, we want to know whether ADUs from your perspective should be permitted as accessory uses in zones designated for residential, commercial, industrial, recreational, and or parks and open spaces, and on a whole different range of property sizes. Number 2, we want to know if existing regulations related to dwellings used by farm workers or family members needing care, whether those should be rolled up into the policy or the bylaw amendments that are happening through this process, or whether they should continue to be handled separately in bylaws. And a key question that's part of, or a key sub-question that is part of this specific topic is whether or not manufactured homes that are used as accessory dwelling units should be allowed to be placed on permanent foundations, or should we stick with the current rule that they have to be on temporary foundations? We also want to know people's preferences in terms of the size limits for ADUs, the setbacks, and the maximum number of ADUs that should be allowed per property. We also want to know how servicing both water and septic should influence the location and size and number of accessory dwelling units. And last, in the sort of the darker yellow box at the bottom, we want to know your thoughts about community compatibility. So for example, do you think where would more homes be a good practice and where it might not be a good fit with the current neighborhood? So we'll be asking you for specific locations where accessory dwelling units should be allowed or not allowed. And lastly, we will be asking whether or not the current regulations for the agricultural land reserve should be applied both within the ALR and outside the ALR, or whether they should be different. And so again, a broad range of questions. And so that leads us to, well, how is the RDEK going to actually seek out this information? And so information is going to be gathered through open houses, an online survey, and meetings in October, November, and December of this year. We will then provide a summary report of everything that we've heard and make it publicly available so that you can keep track of that your feedback has been heard and to learn what others might be saying. And then in December and January, I'll use that information to prepare draft bylaws. Those bylaws then will be sent out for public review in about February of 2026. and we'll be asking for input on those so that they can then be revised before being presented to the board as part of the board's formal bylaw adoption process in May or June 2026. So overall, what this is saying is we're hoping to have this project wrapped up in July of 2026, so just under a year. So again, just to reiterate the importance of your feedback, we really need to hear your ideas, your comments, your concerns, because that is what's going to help us get it right. And there's lots of ways for you to have your say. Please consider attending one or more of the open houses scheduled across the regional district. They start on October 11th and run till December 1st. You could also fill out the online questionnaire available on the RDEK Engage page. Using the email and phone number on the screen, you can reach out to me to tell me what your feedback is. I'm happy to do that via phone, or we can set up a meeting and we can take the time to chat and for me to hear your feedback, or you can email me written comments and feedback if that's your preference. If you would like to participate in a resident or property owner specific focus group on accessory dwelling units, please send me an email and let me know. That will be convened sort of later in the fall to help sift through some of the information that we've heard here and to test ideas. You can also sign up for the general RDEK email updates. There is a mechanism on the RDK website where you can go in and select which mailing list you prefer to be part of. If you need help doing that, you can reach out to me or to the communications team by phoning the main RDK line. And then if you just want to sort of keep informed of what's happening with the project, there is a dedicated Engage page called the Housing Engage page or the Accessory Dwelling Unit Engage page. That has been set up, and we encourage folks to go there for more information or to keep track of the project. So again, thank you very much for listening to this presentation, and I hope you have a really good day.